everyone gets their advertising, their information online these days. If you look at two competing graphs, you'll see that the newspaper industry and to a larger extent, the radio industry and the TV industry, ad sales have plummeted, while at the exact same time, those ad revenues have been sopped up by Facebook, Google, and other online giants. The point is, people simply get their information online. These days, that often means on their phone. So it's interesting to see people try low tech to get ahead. And by that, today, I'm referring to sandwich boards. You know what I'm talking about? Literally placards that are worn on your front and on your back. You used to see them in the Great Depression. Men would say, willing to work for X amount of money, will work for food. In recent years, our friend Billboard Chris Elston has used those sandwich boards to great effect. There's something startling about seeing a man with a friendly face in a public place with a message you can very quickly read, and he's standing there ready to engage with you. I sort of think it's a refreshing throwback to the pre-digital age. And as Billboard Chris shows us, people just can't help coming up to have a real interaction, not an online interaction. Well, Billboard Chris is probably the most famous billboard user, hence his nickname, but he's not the only one. In fact, in Quebec, a man has been wearing a simple billboard that says "Prions pour la fin de l'avortement," and forgive my French accent, which basically means "let us pray for the end of abortion." It's not a sales pitch any more than Billboard Chris's sandwich boards are a sales pitch, but this man was arrested and charged with violating laws about business advertising. Do you think he's advertising a business, or do you think this is protected free speech? Well, the Justice Center for Constitutional Freedoms has weighed in. They believe it's a case of freedom of speech, and they have dispatched a lawyer to help the man in Quebec. Joining us now to talk about this is Glenn Blackett, a lawyer with the JCCF. Glenn, welcome to the show. Nice to see you.
Thanks very much. Nice seeing you.
So tell me a little bit about this man. I suppose in some ways it's completely unimportant who he is, although I am curious. It could be any of us, and the message could be any political message. It could be a pro-life message, it could be a pro-choice message, pro-Israel, pro-Palestine. Political speech is protected in Canada, and the fact that this man is being charged, I think, should be concerned to everyone, not just pro-lifers.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, him and a group of other pro-lifers were out protesting with sandwich boards, and first he was warned. He went and he checked the bylaws to see whether or not he was in violation of them, decided he wasn't in violation of them, and so continued to protest, and then eventually he was charged.
So what exactly did the police do to him? Did they take him into custody? Did they handcuff him, or did they just give him a ticket? How bad was it? Were the police really rough with him, or were they more like bureaucrats and red tape mongers?
Yeah, the latter. Citation and a warning to the rest of his group as well. So, basically a threat of financial penalties for him and for the other people in his group, and that was enough to cool their enthusiasm for the protest. And so, notwithstanding that it was supposed to be 40 days for life protest, they decided to terminate it at 39 because they didn't all want to shoulder the same financial burden that he did.
What is that financial burden? I know that during the COVID era, the government tried to ratchet the number up to such a shocking number that it would act as a deterrent, that people would start to chatter about it. I mean, there were fines of $5,000 plus for things that were effectively parking tickets, the same provincial offenses. What is the fine in this case?
I'm afraid I don't know that.
Okay. And I guess it's enough, though, to dissuade the other protesters from doing it. Now, there are some limits on commercial and corporate speech, and maybe I'm not as comfortable with them as other people are. I mean, I know that they've been used in the past to stop cigarette and alcohol advertising, and I can understand perhaps protecting minors from that, but there's a lot of censorship of corporate speech that goes far beyond minors. Right. We have in Canada censorship of what the left calls greenwashing. So if the oil companies say that they have reduced carbon footprint, the Liberals actually made that illegal, a kind of false advertising claim. What was the underlying law made for? I mean, I when they tried to charge this fella with an offense, a bylaw that he was selling or advertising a service, tell me about that underlying law. What is it, and why do we have it in Canada?
Well, I mean, it's a municipal bylaw, so it's passed by just the city of Sherbrooke, and so theoretically, it's something within their jurisdiction. Things like littering and business licenses and public thoroughfares, that kind of stuff, public safety. Those are some primary legitimate objectives for a city to be pursuing. So I believe it's called bylaw number 1. And it covers a bunch of different stuff, but one of the things it covers under this particular provision is various commercial activities that it prohibits. And in particular, it prohibits basically solicitation on in a public place. And in particular, there's a section for sandwich boards. And so it just says you can't be basically wearing a sandwich board if you're trying to advertise some product or solicit somehow.
Huh. It's funny because his billboard was so benign in an era of shocking comments and dramatic statements. Let us pray for the end of abortion is a very modest. It's not rude. It's not shocking. It's not the kind of thing that we would see on social media, which is often quite ramped up and emotional. It's as vanilla. And by the way, our friend Billboard Chris, his comments are very benign as well. No child is born in the wrong body. I mean, almost impossible to debate. And that's sort of his point, is he wants a debate. Was that the style of this man, Brian Jenkins? Did he sort of wear that to encourage a debate? Was he trying to spark a debate? I'm just curious what his motivations are. And again, I don't think that should be relevant to his right to do that. If he wanted to spark a debate, I think that's actually him doing his duty as a citizen.
Yeah, as I understand it, he was interested in advocating for his message, and as you say, it's quite a benign message. But nowadays, it seems to be that what appears to be quite benign to traditional Canadians has become radical, ultra right wing MAGA sort of hate or something. So. I think the problem that we suspect that the reason that he was charged was because the content of his sign was a pro-life message, a Christian message as well. So I mean he was just looking to spread his message and I'm sure interact with whatever members of the public he could engage.
So you guys have deputized a lawyer, Olivier Seguin, I believe is his name, to represent Mr. Jenkins out there in Sherbrooke. Has there been a response from the city? I mean, sometimes a police officer will make a decision that if it causes a backlash, like in this case, a constitutional challenge, maybe the city might back down and say, oh, we don't want the fight. Yeah, you're fine. You can do that. Have you had any response from the city, including maybe just saying, well, this was the error of a particular cop?
Not yet. I mean, what's interesting is that the police officer first came up and warned the defendant here a few days before he was eventually charged. And the defendant pointed out or went to the library, like I said, and decided to look at the bylaw to see whether or not it applied to him, and found that it didn't because he wasn't advertising for a business. And so when the cop came back next time, he told the police officer that the bylaw didn't apply. He tried to explain it to the police officer. The police officer's comment was, tell it to the court. Wasn't concerned about interpreting the law to see whether or not it applied to him. So that was the police officer's response. Basically what's happened so far is I believe there's been a dispute note filed or something to that effect, and then the next step will be a court date. Whether or not the Crown decides to proceed with the charges or not, we'll find out.